The thing that's changing with add-ons is they are not letting add-ons read real-time combat data. So you can still use add-ons, but they can't read the combat data that's happening. So, yeah. Okay. I wanted to look at the WeakAuras post about this. Yeah, so Zmob should still work. Anything that works out of combat will obviously still work. Things that work in combat but aren't aren't trying to access the combat data, those should still work too. It's just things that are accessing that real-time combat data. But this is still a really big issue. And I can already tell you from testing on the alpha that there are some things that are not good enough yet with the base UI to compensate for the lack of the WeakAuras and the lack of customizable UI in every way. Because they just... I personally feel like they're trying to do too much all at once. Trying to track, for example, debuffs on the mobs can be very challenging. Okay. If you're interested in a technical deep dive, I don't think I'm going to watch the technical deep dive right now. This is the post from WeakAuras. Okay. The add-on apocalypse. Blizzard's recently published the technical details of the planned API restrictions, granting us access to the alpha to test them out and elaborated on their design philosophy. This allowed us to evaluate the impact of these changes on WeakAuras. The changes are unfortunately much more extensive than expected. It's important to note that these changes are not final and will evolve over the course of the alpha. However, given Blizzard's stated philosophy, it seems highly unlikely that the core restrictions will be meaningfully reversed. As it stands, we do not expect to release a WeakAuras version for midnight. The restrictions are so severe, they'll still support it for Classic. Core functionality, such as conditions or actions, or having multiple triggers in one aura, or a cloning trigger, would become impossible. Producing a stripped-down version of WeakAuras without these features would require several months of refactoring. The result would be a barely recognizable version. Given that, we made the difficult decision to not create WeakAuras version for midnight. Damn. While we can't speak for other add-on developers, we know that many combat-related add-ons such as nameplates, damage meters, and unit frames will face similar challenges and may take the same approach. Also, these changes don't just affect combat-related add-ons, but also severely limit, for example, chat add-ons. What? Regrettably. Wait, what? I thought they said that it would only affect the real-time combat data access. Regrettably, Blizzard has downplayed both the scope and timing of these changes in past statements. Back in April, these restrictions were supposed to come at the end of the process and would not affect most add-ons. In that interview said, and I think that some of that gets back to us knowing that we really need to ease into this. We're not easing into this. That any world where we just kind of rip the band-aid off and say, all right, have fun. We're in a new world, as opposed to, you know, building up more built-in functionality, starting to have clearer visuals, simplify some mechanics. That's what I'm saying though. They are trying to do it all at once. So you want to, all at the same time, have your built-in functionality, have clearer visuals, and simplify mechanics in the encounters. So completely change your functionality of your UI and completely change the encounter design and how that how visuals are communicated to the player, how cues are communicated. You can do all that at the exact same time that you completely block add-ons from their functionality that players are relying on them for. Like, there's gonna be you realize there's gonna be a huge gap in time between where players are just kind of fell off a cliff without access to the add-ons they depend on, and are still waiting for you to catch up to where those add-ons were after years and years of development. Anyway, the plan now is to rip the Band-Aid off, so that does not leave us with much choice other than closing shop. We would like to thank each and every one of you for your continuous support over the many years. We would not be here without you. We also want to thank the many other contributors we had over the years. This has been a very tough situation for us. We're sad, we're mad, a lot of feelings. We just hope Blizzard reconsiders a few things. I mean, what kinds of things can they bend on? Like, what kind of things could they maybe be more flexible on, I wonder? This screams mashing the panic button to me. Is WoW in danger of dying? I don't think so at all. I think the game is doing pretty well recently. I think that they're, like, philosophically, their mind is in the right place. I think philosophically, most people do agree that what they have in mind for the future of mechanics and encounter design and having this kinds of good, much better built-in UI tools, we all like that. We all want that. But in the meantime, before those things are out, we're going to be kind of left up a creek without a paddle, so to speak. Personal notes. I've been working on this add-on since I was a teenager, over 15 years ago. Wow. It's been the Kickstarter to my whole career as a software engineer, and my lifeblood that kept me going when times were tough. I'd like to thank the whole team for coming with me. Oh my god! Infus here. Across all versions of Warcraft, we have easily over 1 million users, which is just an amazing number. I don't think any of my professional jobs comes close to that reach. I'm immensely proud of how well we've served all these users. We did a great job. Bud's here. I thought the whole point of them inviting you to the alpha and like getting your feedback on how things were shaping up was so that they could adjust things so you could continue to make the add-on. But it sounds to me like they weren't really willing to adjust at all. Because it seems like, based on this statement, we hope Blizzard reconsiders a few things and we can keep this going. So to me, it sounds like they're willing to compromise, but Blizzard isn't. Of course, I'm speculating. Hi, Buds here. Over a little over 8 years ago, I submitted my very first pull request on the WeakAuras GitHub to fix a small Lua error. I had no idea that moment would spark such a journey. It's hard to believe that this chapter is now coming to a close. From the bottom of my heart, thank you to everyone who made this possible. Developers, contributors, moderators, regulars, every single WeakAuras user. You turned a simple add-on into something far greater than ever. It's not a simple add. You turned a simple add-on to a very complicated add-on. I think it's obvious. We didn't really want to write these goodbyes. I would have vastly preferred to be cursing my own stupidity 12 times an hour every day for the next couple weeks while we bring WeakAuras up to release readiness. As the incurable optimist I am, I'd like to stress that in the event that things don't change enough for us to pick WeakAuras back up, I do think Blizzard will eventually converge on a solution that mostly satisfies everyone. And the community will find all the possible ways to customize your combat UI even further. That we won't be the ones doing so is ultimately a temporary hitch. That's sad. This sounds pretty heartbreaking. Yeah, after 15 years of dedicating yourself to something, I can understand, you know, imagine working on this since you were a teenager and now it's over, you know. This has been a pretty big part of people's combat experience. Ian said they weren't killing WeakAuras, so why are you doing it? In short, it's because it seems the core value proposition of WeakAuras isn't compatible with the direction Blizzard is taking the game. That makes sense. However, there was a post about WeakAuras that has really, really stuck with me, and I hope that the devs see it, because it's easy to write it off and be like, well, you're better off not using WeakAuras anyway, and you're better off just dealing with Blizzard's UI, and, you know, eventually we're going to get the stuff from information from Blizzard's UI that we need. Yeah. But I think that there's a really big part of this equation that people are not discussing that much. And it is the issue with the accessibility. So let me find this post here. Oh, you can't even see this. Oh, here we go. So I saw this post and I really, really hope Blizzard sees it as well. It was a comment on Competitive WoW subreddit about WeakAuras announcing no update for Midnight. Gedin writes, as the leader of Undaunted, the Deaf Guild, I'm so frustrated with these changes. We utilize custom WeakAuras to help bridge the communication gap, such as enlarging the raid warning when it detects certain keywords. Blizzard's stated intention is to move towards communication being the primary method of solving raid mechanics, but they simultaneously destroyed everything we deaf players use to communicate. And no, we can't rely on them to fill the gap they've created, because community add-on authors have been filling the gaps for years. Add-ons like Rayleigh's Spell Announcer were specifically created for disabled players. Blizzard's staff of able-bodied developers is never going to nail accessibility like the customizable UI could. World of Warcraft was one of the most disability accessible games ever, made specifically because of the modability of the UI. They've utterly destroyed that with these changes. I really hope that they, I don't know, maybe reach out to this guy, reach out to people that have been making some of these add-ons that are used for accessibility, and prioritize getting those kinds of changes into the UI first. That should be your number one prio right now. Liz, never thought about this. Sorry to hear that. Maybe your voice get heard in official channels. I think what makes me mad the most is they're downplaying changes. Well, it is alpha too, and like, do we know if this is really the full extent right now of the restrictions? Because it did sound, even from this post, that there's room for them to change and wiggle a little bit before release, but I don't know how much. Yeah. So anyway, that's you guys deserve a say at the table. That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm saying. Yeah. I just don't understand what they want exactly, though. WoW's a game company. They can't create something that covers every disability in existence. No, but they can see, what do players use right now that is helping, and how can we put that into the game? That's kind of their task right now, is to accept all of that feedback and prioritize getting those changes in. They're open to keeping the WeakAuras add-on alive in Midnight if Blizzard makes changes. Yeah, that's what they said in the post. A couple of times. Yeah, we covered that. Quick Discord message and React channel. Oh, did they have another post about it? Let me see. I mean, he said that in the post. I think that was 2 or 3 times in here. They did say that if nothing changes, then we won't make... That's a key phrase right there. Yeah, I see what you posted here. If enough changes happen that we decide to support WeakAuras in Midnight after all, I'll change it to Azeroth the Sage. There. Okay. Well, I doubt it, but never say never, right? Who knows? Stranger things have happened. I just personally think they shouldn't get rid of all these things before they have a lot of replacements in the UI. The UI is better, but it's not where it needs to be at all. like not even close, for tracking all the things that you need to track. It's just not there yet. Blizzard's already adjusted some things after WeakAuras made their statement. That is great. That's good to hear. I thought that was the reason that they invited WeakAuras authors early on in the alpha, so they could act on that feedback. So if they are actually doing that, that's fantastic. This is a situation that is worth monitoring, and that's a big reason why being loud about this stuff, now is the time to do it. So they have time to... Oh, you have an article for me too. Fantastic. Blizzard responds to add-on lockdown feedback. So Blizzard responding, out of combat restrictions to be lifted. Okay. So the order of events was WeakAuras just announced they're shutting their doors. And then they say the out of combat restrictions will be lifted. Immediately in the first day of testing, we've seen feedback on how currently there's a complete lockdown on the ability for add-ons to parse chat. Yeah, okay. So the post from the WeakAuras guy was before this announcement. Add-on comms channels while in instances. We're seeing it break add-ons that support loot councils, break timers, and other benign communications. We agree this is starting out excessively broad. Yes, we're going to make changes to only apply the new logic while there is an active raid encounter or M+ run underway. Our goal would be to make it so that tools that facilitate sharing information before or after combat won't be impacted. That's good. So they are budging on this, and we'll see how much it affects the add-ons we get to keep.